Ladies and gents, again, good morning. I didn't introduce myself earlier. My name is Zotto Mashinini, Learning Programs Manager at MQA. Welcome to this MQA Stakeholder engagement session. We are waiting for somebody from the hotel to come and give us a safety induction. Some of us, it could be that it's the first time that we're here, but while we wait, in case of bathroom, anyone who needs the bathroom, just go out the door and turn right, and then right again, then the bathrooms will be there. Both gents and ladies are next to each other. This is one of our sessions where we engage with our stakeholders. MQA is committed to transparency and obtaining feedback from our stakeholders. We exist because of our stakeholders, and we are committed to always communicating and engaging with them to give each other feedback. So this is your session. This is predominantly, if you look at the program which we will share just now, it is characterized by our executive team. We have a number of these sessions that we hold, during the year. Part of it, some of them will be done by our board members. We've got where we have our board members running the program, which is our annual consultative conference. And then we've got others that run during the year that are run by the different managers, your regional managers, your learning programs managers. And this one predominantly is our executive team. So it is part of it. It is for us to engage with our stakeholders, as our stakeholders to know who is the executive team at the MQA. So without waste of time while we wait, our health and safety induction officer is here, our representative from the hotel. She's going to take us through the health and safety, and then I'll come back to that. Let's just give an opportunity to do that, and then we can take it over from there. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. I'm a bit short. Okay, morning everyone. Welcome to the hotel. So we've got two emergency exits here and on the side doors over there and of the back of the room. You will exit through these doors through to reception. Out the front door, you'll be taken down through the bottom gate, and we go just in front of the bottom gate where there's a sign that says parking. That's where our emergency exit is. The toilets are just around the corner here outside your venue. If there is an issue with this door, we'll go down these stairs, which take you to the admin block outside our maintenance area, which is also another emergency exit in the hotel. We do have fire alarms. So if there is a fire, the fire alarm will go off. We will come and tell you it is a fire if that does happen, and then we will all exit in a calm manner out to our emergency exit. Anything else, if there's threats or anything, we will come and notify you during the course of the day, but welcome and enjoy your conference with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for that. We are always prepared. We work in the mining sector, so we trust that nothing will happen to us or nothing will happen today. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome the MQA executive team. They will occupy these seats so that you see them, you know them. I will call upon our acting CEO, Dr. Thabo Mashongwane. He can come over. As he's coming up, you will see him, and then I'll call them, and then the next one will be our Chief Risk Monitoring and Evaluation Officer, Ntate Bethwell Nemakobani. He'll also come over and sit in front. Next, we'll have Bridget Matebula, our acting Chief Operating Officer. And then we also have another Mayor Lebogang Matala, our Chief Financial Officer. And then we have Ntate Tshepo Tsotetsi, Acting Executive Manager, Stakeholder Relations. And then we also have our Executive Manager, Corporate Services. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our executive team. This is the MQA leadership. I hope there's a round of applause virtually now. They are giving us a round of applause in the virtual platform, and they are able to see our executive team. And today is an engagement session between, if you wanted to ask the MQA CEO a question, today is your chance if you have never met the CEO. So we hope to have a fruitful session. We hope that we will be able to engage as much as this is a formal event. However, it is engagement session wherein you would give us feedback as our stakeholders in terms of how we can improve our offerings, how we can improve service to you, and so that we are able to improve our country and grow our economy. So that is the purpose of this session, because we want to hear from you. Without you, we are nothing. That's the crux of the matter today, because as much as we as an organization, we've got the money, we've got the resources that we are able to fund skills development. However, we can't do it without our stakeholders. So you will see even with the presentation that is going to be shared, in some instances we are struggling with targets or whatever the case may be. It's because we are dependent on our stakeholders. Hence, we have to have multiple sessions to be able to engage and communicate with you. So with those words, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session. This is our final one for this financial year, because we all know if we are in this sector, we will know that our financial year is ending in, 28 days? 31st of March, our financial year is closing. So this is our final one for this year. So whatever that we need to talk about to ensure that we move this country forward or our sector forward, we need to engage in this session. So without any further ado, as a tradition in MQA, before we start any meeting, we would want to remember those who have departed due to accidents that occur in our sector. So I'm going to hand over to Ntatine Makobane. There is a program that I want to run through quickly. With this program and the presentations that are going to be done today, they will be sent to you at the end of the session. However, there are notebooks, and those that are connected from the different places, please make notes as our colleagues are doing the presentation. Make notes, note your questions, and then we will run through the presentations, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Here we are not showing that. We will have a break, I think at about 11 or 11:15, looking at how we're doing in terms of our program. We are scheduled to finish at 1, and we want to try by all means that 1 o'clock we finish. We do understand that there are people that are traveling far, that are catching flights and so forth, so we don't want to run over time. So we're hoping that by 1 o'clock we would be finished, but we want to give you sufficient time to engage, so that you would ask yourself that some of the information that you share with us here, and some of you can attest to this, you would find that you had said something in one of the forums, and when you look at the MQA strategy, you find that your points or your inputs is there. So this is how we engage you as we're going, because our strategy is a 5-year document. However, we review it every year. So the feedback that we get from here, from the stakeholder satisfaction survey, from other platforms, we use that feedback to inform the strategy, because it's our strategy. So ladies and gentlemen, let me hand over to Ntatine Makobane to take us through our item of remembering our departed stakeholders and family members. And then immediately after him, he will hand over to the CEO to do the introduction and opening address. And then the CEO will hand over to the next speaker. And then after that, we can have a break. Then we'll come back for other announcements. Thank you.
Good morning. Yeah, that sounded a little bit muted. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. My task it's a simple one. I'm here to start with. This is what we are gonna present to you today. This is the agenda here. We shall do this task that I'm going to do now for remembering our departed stakeholders and family members, and then the NSDP priority areas, And then we shall look at the National Skills Conference outcomes, the organizational overview, very high level, and then the operational and financial performance for 2020-2021, then 2020-2021 AGSA feedback, and then key highlights, achievements, and 5-year operational performance and plans and challenges and interventions and way forward. Then before we get into everything, as Zoe has indicated, we are going to do this one, which is quite close to our hearts as the MQA, remembering our departed stakeholders and even family members. We know that some of us have lost family members, and probably some of you have lost family members due to the pandemic and due to other causes. Although in the main, we look at those that have lost their lives in the mining and minerals sector. We want to, go beyond that and say, if you've lost anybody, this is the moment that's humbling for us, because we are saying to all those people, they are in our hearts and they shall remain in our hearts. They are gone, but they are not forgotten. It humbles us because it makes us realize that it is by the grace of God that we are still alive. There are many that would have loved to still be around, but they are not here. Many more qualified, many more experienced, but they were not able to see this day. So when we say at the MQA, we start by remembering those that have lost their lives. We really mean it, because it's very much close to our hearts. It humbles us to say only the Almighty God is in charge of life. When He gives it, He gives it. When it's time to take it, He takes it. So shall we all stand up and just observe a moment of silence for those that have lost their lives in the industry? There are some that we know would have been here today. There's some that we knew that they always attended our sessions, but they have passed on now. They can't be able to be here. And for that, we say to all those people, we humbled. That's fine. That's fine. We may be seated. We may be seated. We may be seated. Before I go much further, I want to say, you heard her, Uncle. She said, we have got money. That's her. It's not only me that had her. That's so. So if there's anybody that needs money, that's the person to go to. Don't go to the CFO. Go to her. She says we have got money for skills development. Okay. Mine then will just be a few slides before I hand over to the acting CEO to take us through the rest of the presentation. I will start with the 2030 National Skills Development Plan. We know we've migrated from the NSDS3 to the NSDP 2030. So this is the plan, and the plan has got priority areas, and these are the priority areas. We just thought we should start you with this so that you understand when we continue presenting going through the rest of the presentation, how these things talk to each other. So the NSDP has got these priority areas. Number one is identifying and increasing production of occupations in high demand. Number two, linking education and the workplace. Very critical. I'll get back to that a little bit later. And then outcome three, improving the level of skills in the South African workforce. Number four, increasing access to occupationally directed programs. Number five, supporting the growth of the public college system. I'll talk to that a little bit again. Number six, skills development support for entrepreneurship and cooperative development. Number seven, encouraging and supporting worker-initiated training. And then number eight, it's supporting career development services. So those are the priority areas. And in the main, what we want to say as the MQA is that as we plan, we make sure that our plans and our objectives and our targets respond to the NSDP. So when we do this thing, we actually map them. We have got the SSP outcome, and then we have got the NSDP, and we've got the priorities and the principles. We make sure that whatever we come up with as the MQA responds to these plans and the documents that are there. So be rest assured, when we're talking about that, the plans that the ACTING shall be presenting later have been mapped against all these priority areas that we have. So we are responding to all of them. Then the other thing that I'm going to present is the outcome of the 2021 National Skills Conference outcomes. You'd know as stakeholders that we do host, we are hosted by the NSA just about twice, once in every 2 years. There is a conference, and in that conference, we meet to map a way forward as the skills sector in the country, to say where are we going, what needs to be done, and at the end of the conference, then there are outcomes that are read out as in they are agreed upon, because you'd have several people discussing different topics, and then at the end of the day, then everything will be consolidated, and there are outcomes that are read at the end of the conference. So that is what I am going to do. From the 2021 National Skills Conference outcomes, number one, it's reskill and re-equip the workforce to support quick and agile response to digital skills demand. ERRP skills strategy. You would know about the ERRP, the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. We know that our country has not been spared because of the pandemic. We know that we have suffered a great deal. Many people have lost their jobs because of the pandemic. So the country has come up with a strategy to try and make sure that we get back to where we were, and maybe even go beyond where we were before the pandemic. So that's number one. Number two is the DHET should develop work placement partnership master plan between colleges and industry in order to address the weaknesses of the CET and TVET system. That's very much critical. The weaknesses that are there. So we are acknowledging that there are weaknesses in the CET and TVET system, but the DHET then needs to draft a work placement partnership master plan. We don't want to send learners and preach that learners should be sent to the CETs and TVET colleges. But then when they're done, they are not able to be placed anywhere. That becomes a challenge. As you know, that we've been talking about as a nation, talking about not over-emphasizing the universities as it used to be. But we are saying there are learners that need to go to the CETs and TVET colleges, and they will still be successful and make something of their lives. But we need to make sure that that system works, and it works properly. So that work placement partnership master plan is very critical in order to achieve that. Number three, collaborate with relevant authorities to ensure the review of early childhood development curriculum to include digital literacy and skills for industry, and the future of work must be developed to ensure successful implementation of digital skills. That's very much important. Early childhood development is very much important. In the MQA, we do have career, what do you call it? Career guidance. Yes, but what we're realizing is that we're catching them when they are later in the years. When we want to target them when they are in the secondary levels, it's a bit late. You find people that have got no clue what they're doing, and we still have young people that finish grade 12 and they still don't know what they want to do. But these then start saying, let's improve these learners from early age, very early age. Let's include this digital literacy and other stuff in the curriculum when they're still young, so that when we catch them later, then at least they've got an idea in terms of what is it that they would like to do with their lives. And then number 4, align skills development to the needs of the district municipalities through the district development model. The district development model is very much important. Districts in our nation are not the same, and the skills set that are required in those districts are not the same. About last year, we went to Tabazimbi with the Deputy Minister Butimanamel. And that's another district development model. And when we were there were lots of engagements that had to happen, looking at the economy in the area to say, in this area, what are the skill sets that are required? Because it's not all the district development, the districts rather, that require tourism. In other places, tourism is really not working. So you need to understand the districts, what is required in this district. Some it's more, it's mining, some it's farming. You need to understand what is required in that district, and then we sit together with different role players and say, how then do we respond to the needs of these districts? We want people to be employed. Everybody knows that we've got challenges in our economy. The challenges of the triple evil, the inequality, unemployment, and poverty. Then when we look at this district development model, we are trying to say, how do we alleviate this? Our unemployment rate keeps on going up. How do we respond to the different districts' needs? Number 5, MSA in conjunction with SITAs should create digital hubs in community centers, libraries, education and training centers with free access to Wi-Fi for education and learning purpose. Just as clear and straightforward as that. There are people that are not able to have a sufficient meal in a day in the household. And if we want them to start improving, we're talking about 4IR, there's no way that they're going to be able to improve if they don't have free access to Wi-Fi. If they don't have money for food, it will be difficult for them to buy data. So how do we respond then as a nation to ensure that these learners have access to free Wi-Fi? So this one talks to that, and it's very, very critical. Number 6, a framework should be developed around digitalization of workplaces as an enabler for people with disability. Whatever we do as a nation, we have to make sure that we carry our people with disability along. We don't leave them behind. So that talks to that. Number 7, refocus the application of the skills levy to include design and implementation of digital ecosystems underpinned by inclusive technology for use in upskilling and reskilling of vulnerable groups through accessible hubs. Technology is very much critical, that in upskilling and reskilling, we have to consider technology. We're not going to be talking about 4IR forever when other countries are already starting to talk about 5IR. How do we respond? We need to make sure that technology is embedded in everything that we're doing. If it's upskilling and reskilling, some people need to be upskilled, some just need to be reskilled completely. As they say, there will be jobs that are going to be lost, but there are jobs that are going to be gained because of this technology. We need to embrace it. I know when it comes to unions, it's not very easy, but we need to be alive to these possibilities and the opportunities that are there and embrace them. Then number 8 is position South Africa as a regional hub by developing a digital transformation roadmap for our skills development system. That's us as a regional hub now, not just South Africa, but in the region. Let us be the light in the region. Number 9, invest in advanced skills programs and transition to QCTO occupational certificate. thus replacing legacy qualification. Straightforward as that. Number 10, review curricula and methodologies by adding more modules to pre-vocation learning program, PLPs, to prepare learners for entrepreneurship. Very critical. Very critical. We want to get to a point as a nation where it is not just about gearing our learners to getting qualifications and then they get hired. But we need to start to say, how can we create a bigger dent in the unemployment that's ravaging our nation? And one thing that can absolutely assist us with regard to this is entrepreneurship. We need people who are going to be entrepreneurs, who will go out there and start businesses that will hire more. If we have got 10 people that are going to get employed, it's something. But if you've got 10 people that are going to qualify and then they will go and start companies and hire other people, you'll find that we creating a bigger dent in unemployment, because those people are going to hire more. If one hires 10, that will be about 100 instead of just 10 that would have been employed. So entrepreneurship, we can't overly emphasize it. We all understand how much a difference entrepreneurship can make. Number 11, enhance the artisan training and testing systems by simplifying the artisan systems and injecting quality into the full scope of developing an artisan. Providing support to independent individuals who are ready for a trade test, even if not linked to any SETA, and professionalizing the trades to enhance a positive image of artisans. This one is very much loaded, and I wouldn't want to go to town with it. It's very much loaded. It begins to embrace the challenges that we have with regards to artisan development in the nation. We have got a target, the 30,000 development of artisans in the country. However, there is one thing that is a challenge: positive image of artisans. Many people still take it that going the artisan route, it's just for those who are not smart enough to go to universities, and that then starts creating a gap in terms of skills in the nation, because all of us then will be going to universities. How about the artisan skills that we require as a nation? We need to have people that are sharp, that will say we are going to be artisans. I know that there is a stakeholder here that is looking at having a university which will just be specializing in artisan development in the nation, something that we do not have in the nation, the continent does not have. So they know themselves, they are here, they are represented, and that is something that can make a big difference in our nation. We need to make sure that there's a positive image with regard to artisans. Whatever they need in order to make that dream of theirs come to reality, we will do our best to assist them, as we have already started. Then number 12 is build the requisite skills needed to leverage the green economy to contribute towards the livelihoods of people. Straightforward. Number 13, as I'm coming close to finishing, strengthen collaboration of stakeholders in PSET work across economic sectors. That's very much important as well, that there is collaboration in the post-school education and training. Number 14, NSA to strengthen M&E to support collaboration beyond just signing MOUs, but more towards effective implementation with measurable impact. And that's where, as the MQA, we keep on emphasizing impact, impact, impact. Return on investment. Gone are the days where it was more about counting the numbers. But the issue then becomes what difference the funds that we've injected into these programs are making in the lives of South Africans. We don't want to train for the streets. We want to train beneficiaries that are going to go out there and have their lives impacted upon in a positive way because of our funding. So we'll continue to make sure that there is impact, not just signing MOUs. How many MOUs do you have? It's not about that. It's about the lives of the people. You can count MOUs until cows come home. But if those MOUs are not bringing anything, or they are not changing the lives of the people, you are not really helping the situation. That is why we always go out there and check the beneficiaries that we have funded to see if their social status, social and economic status has changed. Number 15, future NSA conferences should be broadened to include other role players, such as government departments responsible for key recommendations made in the conference. Here, what is being said is that we want people to be part of what is being discussed. People should be part of what is being discussed so that when they go out, they own up to what the outcomes are saying. If you're planning without some key departments that are supposed to implement the recommendations, when you're done, you take this document, you give it to them, they take it to file 13. Until you meet again in the next 2 years, you'll find that nothing much has moved because the people with whom you were supposed to plan were not part of the discussions. So it's very much important that then, as it was identified, that next time this conference should be broadened to include other departments that are going to be responsible for implementing some key recommendations. So these, ladies and gentlemen, are the 15 outcomes of the National Skills Authority Conference that was held in 2021. Okay, so everything that we do then from now going forward, we have to be looking at this to see what role then are we going to play as the MQA to make sure that these which was agreed upon then it gets to walk and gets to run. And ladies and gentlemen, my story ends there. I am going to be welcoming the MQA's acting CEO to take this further to continue with the presentation that we have. Shall we give him a round of applause as he stands up?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we have already been welcomed by our program director, Mezoda, as well as Ntatena Magubani. I mean, they did a wonderful job. And let me also welcome those who are joining us virtually. As introduced earlier, my name is Thabo Mashongwani. I might have had a number of engagements with you on various platforms in the past, and to most of the stakeholders in the skills development system, we have been having numerous engagements. So I don't think that I need to introduce myself more than that, but suffice to say, I have been in the skills development sector for a number of years. Not only skills development sector, but obviously having grown from being an artisan, an instructor, lecturer, principal of TVETs, having led also the the amalgamation of the TVETs and so forth. So I have been there when we had the industrial training boards, and as from the TVET side, but also worked in the Department of Labor as well as higher education and training, and finally having led the National Skills Authority for a number of years. So that's a brief introduction of myself, so as you know exactly who's addressing you today. I'm quite privileged to have joined the Mining Qualification Authority since last year as the COO. and been afforded an opportunity for the next 6 months to assist in contributing from the steering side. And I must actually applaud my predecessor, Ntate Namagubani, for having done fantastic work in terms of management and leading on governance issues, as well as the rest of other colleagues who are here. I guess most of the faces here, you will be familiar with these faces, except the only two faces. It will be myself and Ntate Mashudu Mabungo, our Executive Corporate Service Manager, who's sitting right at the extreme end of the table. He's our leader in terms of corporate services. And the team has been introduced. We are joined as the executive by also our new acting executives, that is Mayor Bridget Matebula. She has been recently appointed together with myself and Tate Tsepo Tsotetse. I was even wondering where he is. Shortage of space, yeah. But he's in our midst. Welcome, the two of you. I must also share with you this beautiful news that we have, finally, as the MQA, a new CFO, Melebogang Matlala. She has just been appointed our CFO as of the 1st of March. So we are quite happy to have this team. I guess the board is intending to stop the Hollywood in terms of keep on changing. But then there are some benefits in terms of that, if you were to look on the positive side of it, because you then bring a different strength of various people to assist to take the organization forward, despite some of the cons that are associated to that. But the good thing is, as the executive, we have learned to work together as a team, and also to support each other as and when the next person takes over. So I'm glad to say we're working very well, and our board is very strong. And by the way, it was introduced to you, our new board. Let me then take you through the mandate of the MQA. I would not want to go back in terms of why we are here. Mezo covered that ground very well to say it is important to consult. The saying that say nothing about us without us. We have to really understand what the needs are. And she has also outlined that we have various platforms where we engage at various levels. I mean, right from senior managers within units engaging with you. I have been in some of those platforms, and ultimately the board engaging with you during the consultative forum. So today it's one of the last where we are actually saying, please come on board and share with us some of your experiences. And we also take this opportunity, to give you information, keep you updated in terms of where we are at as an organization, because we have to do so. We report to you, you are our bosses. All right. The vision, just to remind all of us, the vision and the mission and values of MQA. I would not necessarily read this line by line. It's something that is already contained in the website. It's something that we keep on repeating. But why do we have to remind ourselves of the vision of an organization? We try to keep ourselves focused into the business of that organization. That's why we have to remind ourselves of the vision. Now, we are one of the 21 sitters, and therefore our focus is in the mineral and mining sector. And therefore, our vision has to obviously articulate the aspiration, the needs in this particular sector. As it says, a competent, health and safety-oriented mining and mineral workforce. Obviously, as and when it is required, we will obviously revisit the vision, but up to now, it carries. And we still also then saying, how then do we arrive to that? By ensuring that the mining and mineral sector has sufficient competent people who will improve the health and safety, employment, equity, and increase productivity standards. So you will also take note that as Ma'am Matala is going to be giving us reports on the financials, that our revenue has gone up as much as there has been seemingly a decline in the mining, whether call it mining activities or mining sector. The challenges associated to variable factors included to that will be COVID-19. But something surprising, revenue-wise, at least there has been increase, and that's how we know that something's happening in this particular sector. The values are quite important because they then keep us focused and they steer us in the right direction in terms of us achieving the vision and the mission. Integrity is what we stand for. Accountability is what we are doing today. We have to be accountable to you, to the sector, because you contribute to who we are. And we are also saying we aspire to continuously learn. This is what I've already spoken to with regard to a rotational basis of acting position, not only at the executive level, but also on other levels. So we're giving people an opportunity internally to say, contribute to the mandate of the MQA, but also we want to learn from you. And we also saying to our sector, let us all together, let's learn together. And stakeholder orientation, this is what we're doing today. We are actually demonstrating it to say, you are the very important people, hence to pay, and respect, service excellence, and value for money. These are the things that we aspire to be all the time. Now we are guided by legislative prescripts, various legislative prescripts, if I may say. Having been one of the first sitters, that's why we are quite unique. We're not called, our name does not have a sitter Mebaitsi at the end. We include it all the time. It's like we have forgotten to put sitter after MQA. All other sitters, you don't have to put it, it's automatically there. You know, once you say facet, once you say something, it's already there. It's because we were obviously established under a different legislation, which was under the Ministry of Mineral Resources and Energy. And I would not want to go to that history, back to that history, but because it is also our line department, we take you from their activities, their policy direction, and we want to support that department because it is supporting our sector. Therefore, their regulations will obviously affect us, and I would not actually go to all of them. The next one is we saw the movement of sitters from 2009 when the new ministry was then established in 2009, creating a conglomeration of the then FET colleges as well as universities, University of Technology. They then brought together the skill development function, which then fell under Department of Labor, formed a new a ministry, or rather Department of Education and Training. And therefore, the Skills Development Act that was used from Department of Labor had to be reviewed in line with the new changes and the mandate. And therefore, that act still guides us. I can note that bullet 2 there, we will obviously update it. We no longer have SAQA Act, but rather National Qualifications Act. It's something that we'll work on because it's been repealed. And all of these acts are quite relevant to us. And included to that, we say, then how then do we get funded? Then the Ministry of Finance comes into play in terms of the relevant legislation to say employers from their wage bill, this is how much they will pay, and this is how we are going to then account for those monies as a sitter. Remember, a sitter is an intermediary body that facilitates training within a particular sector. So we are an intermediary body. We are not a training provider, but rather we coordinate training providers together with the employers and all other role players to say, how can we take skills development in this sector forward? We are further then guided by other policy, documents, national policy documents. I will not speak to those, the NSDSP, a new growth path, and so forth. And in terms of governance, we obviously have to rely on KIM 4 and all other related policy documents. In terms of how we are structured at governance level, firstly, we have the board chairperson who's appointed by the minister. Now, he is appointed at the discretion of the minister. It must be understood, as much as for now we are transitioning from just being under the department or controlled by the Department of Mineral Resources, but rather falling under the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Innovation. We still have our Chief Inspector of Mine being our chairperson. This is the only sitter that had a clear direction in terms of who the chairperson will be. It has been Chief Inspector of Mine. I take it that at such a point in time, as and when our political leaders decide, they will give us direction. But for now, that position still holds. And we then have, obviously, there has been a change in terms of board representation. Unlike previously where you had only business, state, and labor, organized labor. But right now you can then see that it is a community representative in the board, and the numbers have actually also been reduced. The fact that we have only 5 employer representatives, there's still one more appointment outstanding. So there's supposed to be 6. So in total, there's about 15. And that brings a very nice balance to the board when they actually discuss issues of governance and accountability. And now this board then appoints committees. We now have 5 main committees. Previously, there was a proliferation of number of committees, and probably some of you participated in those committees. But now we now have a committee called Governance and Strategy, which then took over a number of activities and functions that were done by various committees. Now, what that means is that committees have then been pitched at the highest level of engagement, where you don't have to have a committee, then obviously discussing operational issues to a point of even giving probably directives to a manager. So we have actually taken that out, and this is in terms of the Skill Development Act, and that's what all other sitters have been doing. This does not necessarily, however, say you may not necessarily have a subcommittee or a task team that can report to a particular committee for a particular period in time and for a specific reason. So that is still accommodated within our constitution. Now, as a sitter for the next 5 years, we are guided by these strategic objectives, about 6 of them. And these strategic objectives, they actually take cue from the legislative mandate that I've spoken to earlier on. They also are well informed by the national policy prescripts that I've spoken to, in particular, the National Skill Development Plan 2030. So they actually follow that direction. You'll see the first one is an internally focused kind of a strategic objective that then says, as an entity, you have to be up to the game in terms of your governance, in terms of your efficiency issues. So this is internally focused. Oh, thank you very much. That's why we need a CFO. And that's why we need a COO. They actually close the gaps. Thank you very much, Mabry. Now, I'm not going to be talking to this because they are already there within the, if we are to visit our website, you'll find all of these things. And they are well detailed in terms of the targets related to that. What is it that we intend to do as a sitter? But what we say in there with strategic objective number 1 is we need to be a very efficient and effective administration or entity. So please hold us accountable. We want to have you contacting us, whether telephonically, whether by emails, because we have promised you that we shall be that particular entity which is very effective. Then moving from strategic objective number 2 to the 6th one. These are basically dealing with the core business of what MQA is, which is improve skill development, planning, and decision-making through research. We can't do so without your input. You will remember in the NSDSP, NSDS3, it was one of the objectives that talked to establishment of incredible institutional mechanism. So all of these issues then emanated from there, and NSDSP had to be couched in such a way that it does not deviate much from the principles set out in NSDS3 because we are still building this sector. So we have to do this. And I must actually declare that we are doing quite well, although we can do better. With your input, we can do better. We have just closed the last consultative workshop conducted by a unit in charge of this, where we are actually saying this is how we are going to collect information in relation to WSP, ATR, and this is what we need, and assisting you because we want to improve the system. Number 3, we're talking to promote work-based skill development to support transformation in the mining and mineral sector. Now, this is specifically for the currently employed in the sector to say, if we were to change the profile of the sector, maybe let me take you back to some of the developmental and transformative principles or imperatives which were contained in NSDS3 as well as obviously contained in the NSDSP. They spoke to about 7 imperatives, and one of those is we need to change the profile of the workforce in South Africa. We need to have young people. We need also to do something to people with disability. We need also to not forget the rurality, the rural areas, and bring those people in. And I can go on with regard to the wage gaps that exist. Now here, this intervention is beginning to say, yes, there are people already employed, and there are people who were disadvantaged previously. Now, can we then create learning and training opportunities for these people to move up the ladder or even to be better in what they do? And that obviously ultimately can result in them getting better pay. So this is where we are. And later on, I'm not sure whether we'll be able to do that, but you'll see that the profile is shifting, but has not shifted at a pace and a rate at which we were expecting. If you were to look at what the National Skills Authority did with regard to 5-year evaluation of NSDS3, you'll then understand that there has been a shift from NQF level 1 to 3 qualifications, particularly with regard to Black people. They have moved up a bit, but there's still terrible skewness when coming to higher level, qualifications in terms of NQF level 7 upward. You'll still see that Blacks have not actually moved with the necessary speed into those. So we're aiming to say in the sector, what is it that we have to do? And this is where we are actually pleading also with our colleagues, the organized labor colleagues, to say, indeed, I know you're fighting for the rights of workers, but if we are to have a wonderful foresight as a country, we need to be saying, let's fight for these workers, but how then do we enhance, opportunities for the new entrants? These entrants, by the way, these are our children. They are coming. Therefore, we need to have that balance as we deal with these issues. And then number 4, we facilitate access to occupational directed learning programs for the unemployed. this is contained as one of the objectives of the Skills Development Act, to say we have to develop the workforce, but also not forgetting the unemployed. So that's where now we funding, we have these interventions such as bursaries and so forth, learning opportunities, internships, directed on occupational qualifications. 5, we support training initiatives in the mine communities. We actually say that social labor plan, how then do we take care of the needs of the areas that hosted our mining activities? Because once a mine closes or moves out of an area, the area gets dilapidated, and you'll see that economic activities go down. So we are saying, let's begin to empower those communities, and that's what that it's happen is responsible for, in terms of ensuring that we reach out to those communities. And at a later stage, probably 1 or 2 slides can talk to that. And the last one, ensure the delivery of quality learning programs in the mining and mineral sector. We don't just want to train, but we actually say, whatever kind of intervention we're giving you, it must then give you an advantage of articulating somehow, because your life may not end up in this sector. You may need to move out to other sectors, and therefore let it be quality assured, let it be part and parcel of the bigger framework, the national qualification framework that I spoke to earlier. So I mean, you'd understand, some of us we come from other sectors, but we end up coming into this sector because there is that articulation in terms of the programs we did. Now, this is what we call value chain for us, for our own purposes, and for you to understand what we do inside MQA. We're doing skills planning research. I've spoken to it as one of the interventions or the strategic objectives, and it has all of these activities. I will not necessarily talk to the activities. I've spoken to WSP, ATR, the compilation, the research, and the supporting of the sector. Now, we need really to beef up this unit going forward because of the challenges of digitization, the challenges of OIR. We now need to be understanding where the sector is heading to in regard to these other changes, and begin to research, because it is only through research that we can make informed decisions and advise the country accordingly. Once the correct research is done, we are now beginning to say, okay, research is telling us the following interventions are required for this particular period in our sector. And we go back to our learning programs, and we have those we call strategic projects. Now, these strategic projects, they'll then be talking to those strategic objectives that we've spoken to earlier on, to say these are interventions in the sector. You will have the lecturer support, you will have the work experience and so forth, the workplace experience and so forth. And then we'll also have other interventions such as the artisan training and the learnerships and so forth. These are the programs we're beginning to address and respond to what the governing body said, our board said. This will be a strategic objective for you. So these are the tools for us to reach that strategic objective. And we also want to make sure with the last strategic objective that I've spoken to now, which is ensuring that our programs are quality assured. Then we have a quality assurance as a unit that is in charge of the development of quality partners. Obviously, these will be some of their approaches in terms of ensuring quality of our programs. The assessment, quality partner, and quality assurance as one of the wings. Now, these, I guess, we are now used to this. when they started, yes, I've been in the QC2O as a member for a number of years, even when this was started. So they were quite difficult even to call, DQP, there were a lot of tongue twists, but by now I hope that we understand what we're talking about. Now, I will not go to every bullet that talks to a particular area. We then have very important units. Very important units. Remember, these units, in the main, they speak to a strategic objective 1, having a very effective, efficient administration and governance. Now, the support services, be it communication, we are here because we have a unit called communication led by Memel and my colleagues here. They are forever quite excited to get us around. And wherever they are actually wondering to say, but where are the people who confirmed this hall is supposed to be full? It's okay, it does happen, but I know that you know how to handle it. So these are very important units that ensures that the business of MQA is taken forward. I will not call all of those units, and we can also do without the money unit. You know the money unit. Now that's why we had to appoint somebody for the money unit. Maybe we need just to be blunt. It's a money unit. You are a money executive. Okay. All right, this is who we are. Some are smiling, some are not smiling. Some are shy, some are not shy. I mean, that's in the nature of the game, We were never born at the same time and the same way. All right. Then in terms of just updating you as our stakeholders around the recruitment process of the CEO, it is in the pipeline, it's happening. The wheels could be a bit slow, but it's happening. It's together with the board and the department and the minister. So hoping very soon that we will have the CEO, although albeit it will be almost too late because it will be the end of the first term of the board. It doesn't matter, we soldier on. With regard to what I referred to, remember I spoken to the name of Ndadet Support, it says in charge of this area, which was recently held by Mezo. So we have these offices. We intend doing something about these offices because they are not yet at the required level and standard. We have to move with speed to ensure that we have proper offices. Here and there could be one office which is at least better, but most are located in TVET colleges, and sometimes we get a bit disappointed because they are somewhere in a corner in a TVET college, and you may not have full access to it or easy access to it. We will have to do better. We have to move with speed to say, let's have these offices because they serve one of the most crucial purpose of you making easy access for all our stakeholders to get into, as much as at head office will still be obviously attending to your needs. You will take note that it is about 6 of them, although we have 9 provinces, because we have combined some provinces as it is indicated in here. In the red column, we have the MQ offices, that is KwaZulu-Natal. There are no offices in Western Cape, as well as Eastern Cape is responsible for providing service for KZN and Northern Cape for Western Cape. So why do we still need Eastern Cape? It is important province because it's a labor sending province. I take it that this is my last, no, not the last. Now with regard to performance, just a brief summary. The detailed report is there on the website, but just suffice to say the performance was at about 85% in terms of civil service level agreement that we signed with the department. We were standing at 85%. We could not meet 7 targets, but out of 46, which is of course a great performance. Would have loved to meet all the targets. And with regard to annual performance, we were standing at 80 as at 2020-2021, and failed to meet 9 targets. Please help us to meet these targets. We don't want to come back here and say we failed. By the way, when we fail, you also fail because you did not assist us meeting this target. And so try and assist us by completing, when you complete application form, comply, supply everything that is required. And if a sickness, sometimes some of the things that let us down, it's a signature is missing, and we can't process because auditor is going to be on our case. So please make sure that you do submit, and please do not send blank, application forms. I mean, we have been there ourselves at individual level. Sometimes, okay, if I have to send my form, it will be like I have met the deadline, although they may have to come back to me to say, yeah, you only wrote your name and your cell number, so as we came back to you. So let's try and assist each other as stakeholders to meet all our targets. And then with regard to the discretionary and mandatory, this is where now I really asked the question to say, but why did we perform better with regard to mandatory? It is because there was increased number of WSP ATR for the previous cycle, so which is a good thing, and would actually want to even exceed that. The same goes for discretionary grants. So we want to have to perform much better. So this is good work from you as our stakeholders, and also our executives who were in charge by then. And by the way, the people who were in charge of that financial year was Tatina Magobani and Mayor Bridget and the rest of other colleagues who were there supporting them. Thank you very much for the work, the job well done. At this stage, let me ask, because now we're getting into money, I can take you to some of this, but I may miss something, and the CFO will be on my case, okay? All right, so it is best and it's safe to leave this at this stage.
Thank you, colleagues. Another round of applause for our CEO, acting CEO. Thank you. At this stage, it's just about just before 11 o'clock. I'd like for us to take tea just before we welcome the CFO to take us through the performance in terms of finances and the performance of the organization. So you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. We are trending there, MQA Stakeholder Engagement Forum. On Facebook, it's Mining Qualifications Authority. And on Twitter is at MQA_SA, as well as on Instagram. So you can follow us there and chat and update the others that are not here. We can take a break for now until 11:15. And then 11:15, immediately we come back, and then the CFO will take the podium and take us through the performance. Thank you, colleagues. Welcome back. Welcome back, colleagues. We're going to the next part of the program. I'm going to hand over to our CFO, who's going to take us through. And then immediately after her, she will hand over back to the acting CEO to conclude the presentation. And then after, we will have a question and answer or discussion session, and it will take us to lunch. Thank you. Over to you, CFO.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and good morning to everyone. As already introduced, my name is Lebogang Matlala. I am the CFO for the Mining Qualifications Authority, a role that I have acted for about 2 years, 6 months to be exact. And I'm truly honored to have been given the opportunity to act in the position, because that gave me an opportunity to lay the groundwork and eventually to be appointed. I'm truly honored, and I'm committed to ensuring that we continuously improve and be efficient in how we manage the affairs, financial affairs of the organization. Thank you, boss. Okay, I will basically be taking you through the financial section of the presentation. It's quite a few slides, so I won't be here for long. Without the waste of time, I will just go straight to the presentation. Okay, this particular slide, some of you might be familiar with the slide. It basically gives an overall picture of how we derive revenue as the MQA. It basically starts from the employer side. If your wage bill is above 500,000, you are required by the Skills Development Levies Act to register with SARS and to pay levies. So the process starts from the completion of EMP 201, which you now basically register your company with SARS to be associated to a particular SETA. Then as soon as that is done, you have to declare on a monthly basis through your EMP 201, like your PAYE and your UIF. So you would also have to declare your skills development levies, which is basically a 1% of your wage bill. All that gets consolidated because it gets paid to SARS. SARS consolidate, and that consolidated amount gets transferred to the Department of Higher Education Then the department, 80% of that, it gets transferred to the SETAs, and 20% goes to NSF. Then for the SETAs side, from the 80% that we get from SARS, I just want to see nicely here, 10.5% it's reserved for administration purposes. Of the 10.5, 0.5 goes to QCTO. That basically means that we are only left with 10% for administration purposes. I think maybe some of you might be aware of the case between the department and BUSA, which basically set aside regulation 4.4, which was regulating the 20% for mandatory. The two parties are still in engagement. So where we are, we basically continued paying the 20% mandatory until further guidance that we might actually get from the two parties. Then of the 80% as well, 49.5, it's basically reserved for discretionary grants. That's basically where the majority of the funds are basically situated, 49.5. And we were actually obliged to make sure that out of the 49.5, 80% it's reserved for pivotal and 20% it's for other. Okay, this particular slide, it just gives a picture of the revenue that we've been receiving over the years as well as the expenses. You would notice that for 2017 and 2018, we were actually getting we had a deficit at the end of the year. It basically means that the revenue that we received was less than the expenses that we received. And I think even from the graph itself, you can basically see that the expenses are higher than the revenue, and that results in a deficit. It simply means that you had to spend more than what you had. So that's basically, and the major reason for this was that as a public entity, we are required in terms of PFMA to submit a budget to the minister for approval. So back in those years, we used to get the approval from the National Treasury to budget for a deficit. And that is basically why our expenses were more than the income. Around 2018, then that practice was actually stopped. When we did the budget, we now had to make sure that the income and the expenses break even. So that is why you see a different picture from 2019, 2020, and 2021. You'd see that the expenses are now less than the income, and that was resulting in the surplus that is demonstrated by the green bar. When you compare 2021 and 2022, you'd see that for 2021, our surplus significantly reduced. When you compare it to the 333 million, we only had a surplus of 84 million, which you can even see from the graph there that our income approximated our expenses, and I mean having a lesser surplus is actually a good thing. We are not in the business of making surpluses. So basically, where we need to head or where we need to get to as an organization, we need to get to a point where we break even. Our income and expenses, they basically break even, because we are just not there to be making a profit. Okay, basically, like when the minute you have a deficit, that affects your reserves. Reserves are there to ensure that whatever that we committed, all the contracts that we signed with the sector is basically covered. So when you look at 2017 and 2018, because we had deficits for those financial years, we basically did not have sufficient reserves to cover our commitment. If, for instance, it was to happen that we were supposed to settle all our commitment at a go, it means that we're not going to be able to, we would only be able to pay 221 million, and the 522 we're not going to be in a position to pay it. But the picture is completely different when you look at 2021. which is the year that just passed, our commitment was 725, while our reserves were 765. Basically, we had more reserves than what we committed. So if we were again to settle all of them at the go, then it means we would be able to do that without any challenges. Okay, this particular slide, I included the slide just to demonstrate to the sector where we come from as an organization. This is basically the expired contracts. When you get allocated and you go and you recruit the learners, we sign a contract. That contract has a start and an end date. So it assumes that the learner would complete at a specific time, but it does happen that the learners do not complete for various reasons. So if it happens that the employer does not notify the SETA, then the implication would basically mean that that particular learner, from a financial perspective, we cannot commit for that learner because we basically don't have a contract that now obliges the SETA to continuously pay for the particular learner. But because there has been that culture where the MQA still pays for those learners completion grants even after the contract has expired, but because it was actually compromising the financial aspects of the SETA and even raising risks of adverse audit opinions, some work had to be done. So we basically had to embark on quite a number of projects where we were dealing with the expired contracts. I mean, you would know that I mean, most of the colleagues would come to you and would want to know the status of the learners so that we can be able to have some level of assurance that the learners that we have in our books, they are still in training. So when we closed 2019, then 107 million worth of learners, it meant that we had to remove them out of the books because they were not the contracts were not valid anymore. They were not meeting the definition of a commitment. So we basically had to do work to make sure that for those learners, we get extensions, and you would see it for 2020, then the figure basically reduced to 57 million. Then we are actually glad to indicate that for 2021, we closed with 0. This basically, I would basically like to thank the sector for your cooperation and your assistance, and it actually assisted all those extension letters that you had to sign. It was just to purely make sure that when we close off the financial year, we can completely and accurately account for all the learners. So even for the current year, we've seen that there's quite a number of extensions that we are signing. So we would actually request that you continue to, if you can see that the learner contract is about to expire and for various reasons the learner is still in training, please do notify us so that we can be able to make sure that we reserve the amount that is set aside for that particular learner. Okay, this is basically my last slide. As we are all aware that as a public entity, we are required by PFMA to be audited. So each and every year we are required to submit our financial statement and our performance information for audit to the Auditor General of South Africa. You would notice that for 2015-2016, we basically got a qualified audit opinion. And I think it's important that maybe I try and explain the meaning of this, the meaning of the meaning of this, because basically in the morning with my colleagues, we were actually sitting outside, and there was some social media post that was going around with the mayor indicating that they were basically celebrating a qualified audit opinion. And so we basically had to, we were asking ourselves various questions as to, but why would you celebrate a qualified audit opinion? So basically the meaning of this, it's that your financial affairs are not in order, in simple terms. They are not in order. There's errors that were picked up, and they are material to an extent that the auditors are basically saying your finances are not in order. Whereas the unqualified is basically the inverse. They are basically saying when they issue an unqualified audit opinion, they're basically indicating to say your financial statements, they fairly present, meaning they are in order, even though maybe there might be instances where they've picked up some errors, they are not material to an extent that they would be misleading to the users of the financial statement. So for 2016, we were qualified, which is not a good audit opinion. For performance information, the conclusion that was reached on our reported performance information, you'd see in our annual report, there's a section where we would have our targets and our achievement, and all that information gets audited. And based on the audit that was done for that particular year, we basically received a qualified audit opinion, meaning the information that was contained in there was not reliable. Meaning as the end user or as the user of the financial statement, when you look at that information, you didn't even have to, because it's not reliable. The auditors could not get sufficient audit evidence to substantiate that really as the user you can be able to rely on. So things were really bad in that particular year. AG action plan required intervention, risk management, like there were some issues of concern as well as internal audit. So when you look at all these drivers, you can basically see where we come from as an organization. Obviously, work had to be done to make sure that we turn things around. And that is basically why you can see that most areas started to improve. And for instance, our internal audit started to get a conclusion, which is good, and that has been maintained. And I think goes for the others, where our opinion also changed to an unqualified audit opinion, and the overall audit opinion also remained to be unqualified. And as an organization, we are basically working towards a clean audit. I know auditors would always indicate that there is no term as a clean audit in their lingo. So basically what that means is when they audit, because when they audit three sections. They look at compliance with laws and regulation, they look at performance information, and they look at the financial statement. So we are striving to get to a point where when all these three aspects gets audited, we don't get material findings. So that's basically the plan for the current financial year and going forward. So that's where we are as an organization, and that's where we want to head to, or maybe that's what we aspire to get for the coming financial years. I think my story would end there. Thank you very much, colleagues, and I would hand over back to you.
Thanks, CFO. The good thing is we have a very qualified CFO, and we're expecting unqualified reports from her. Is that the case, ma'am? Qualified CFO? Yes. Life is amazing, eh? I don't know what was happening with financial discipline, accounting. They went their own way. They changed the normal way of speaking and make it okay, you know. So you'll see as we go along, that's how financial people are. So please do not blame our politicians and the rest of other people when they celebrate things that are not supposed to be celebrated. All right, colleagues, let's then take this last leg. I think this is where you ended the AG controls, ne? Thank you very much. All right, then we want just to give you snippets of highlights in terms of achievement. You already have a picture that we performed at 83%, and so what informs some of those issues. Zooming into our detailed report will give you an indication of exactly where we were not successful and where we performed very well. Now here we giving this snippet so as we find a moment to celebrate. We want to celebrate the achievements of artisan target, which was obviously we're expecting 650 and then it's 652. So we're celebrating these two additional artisans that way. You may, yes, indeed, Mezo, you will think that this is nothing. This is good because it takes a lot to train an artisan. Ask me, I've been there. I've been called all sorts of names, Api and what, and during those days, it was very, very interesting, you know. You're thrown to and fro in the company and you're made to do a number of things, so it does take a lot. And going to Inglelam, face those as assessors, at least lately it's better. As it was, you fail one module, you fail all, you can't repeat all. So, you know, the ones that are now led by Ntatina Magobani, you can still come back and finish that module, you know. And then, I mean, he looked into the risks and, you know, these risk officers, risk and this and that. So we're celebrating this additional two. And I must say, before, I know that Mabry is going to have to leave us, and thanks for being here. She has pressing engagements, but then she said, you dare forget that there are additional 37 artisans that we are going to celebrate on Monday in the Western Cape, Vredendal. 37 artisans from the unemployed, from rural communities. And that's a real cause for celebration. So Mabry, thank you very much with the team for having, you know, performed so well in terms of artisans. And occupational health and safety, which is quite critical. Remember our vision, what we are seeking to create, competent, health and safety oriented, you know, workforce. So this is where we are at now. We are saying we were looking at 2,800, but then we exceeded that by 77 more people. With regard to health and safety program, the first one was representatives, and this one we were looking at 200, and we gave additional 47. The mine community development, we were looking at 950, but we then delivered 1,030. At least these figures, you know, are not so funny. You can always call them. I don't want financial figures. Please do not dare call those figures if you have not been trained to call those figures. All right. So that's why we leave them to the people who have been trained. No, this one's our type of figures. So we also unemployed youth. Remember the transformational imperative. You know, these things, they link, and you then begin to understand, okay, this is how the vision links to the vision and the strategic. So we are actually delivering against our mandate. We expected 1,000, we then delivered 1,000 additional 182. And the support, the efficient administration. We are saying the supply chain management, there has been, it was enhanced, was improved, because we then managed to address deficiencies. Because if your support units are not geared up to the challenge, you have a problem. They can hawk the whole system. And at the end of the day, you'll find that we have clean audit, but it's empty. Do you know that? You can have big suppliers and everybody says we tick the box, we were good, but it's empty. So we also read into, once a person says unqualified, clean audit, we now read into the details. I have been actually taught that by parliamentarians. Once you go to parliament, they'll open your eyes. They don't like percentages. They don't like these other big words. They say, give us the meat, the real deal. The risk management, this is where Ntatino Govani then specializes I normally call it, he has a hawk's eye. He can see things that we don't see. You know, he sees a wrong comma in a very big paragraph. And I say, how did he pick up this one? His eye has been trained that way, so I've accepted it. Then dual reporting. There was a mention also of dual reporting when they were presenting of us reporting in 2 different departments. Yes, DMRE is our host department, is our line department, but then we are now working towards reporting to a different department, which is DHET, and that the wheels are, the spanners are in the wheels, and that is being corrected. And 2030 extended timeline, MQA was, when other SETAs were extended up until 2030, MQ was given time and again 2 years. I know because I was on the other side and fighting that something has to happen, but then our biggest problem was what I've just spoken about, these 2 reporting regimes. So finally, we are now extended like the rest of other SETAs, and our staff have level of certainty now, so they don't have to send their CVs to you as stakeholders to say we may lose our jobs. At least they know that up until 2030. Measuring impact. This is quite important, and you know, this was emphasized by the executives to say, please tell stakeholders that we are also conducting tracer studies, and the purpose of the tracer studies is to say, where are these learners? If you have gone through our programs, where are you now? What are you doing? Are you working? Are you self-employed? And so forth. So we are conducting that time and again, and even now we have some other you know, reports coming through. Those will be shared with you. All of what I'm talking about, you can always easily access it from our website, or you can drop us an email or, you know, a phone and say, please give us the report you referred to. Transformation through the historically disadvantaged lecturer support program. These abbreviations are very terrible. 2 days ago, we were meeting our Botswana colleagues from Botswana University of Technology, and people were throwing the poor people with abbreviation and say, yeah, you're in terms of DQP and AQP, my goodness, you have said nothing. So we have to remind colleagues to say, please make sense of what we are saying. Because this is what we used to hear in these things once you are a patient in hospital, and it's for a purpose. Nurses and doctors don't want you to hear, because what they're talking about, they could be saying you are just about to die, but they call it differently. So achievement of unqualified transformation through, so we are actually saying our lecturers at university as well as TVET and wherever, they must be capacitated for the needs of our sector. All right, so this is what we do. There's funding for that. And please understand, lecturers, I had people being hard on TVET, because I come from there, I know what's happening. Be hard on TVET to say lecturers are not well qualified. Let me tell you, some of the most advanced professors, they have never seen a work environment outside the university. After qualifying as a master's student, he was appointed right by that university up until, so they have no clue of what they're talking about sometimes. All right, so do not be hard on the TVET lecturers, even university. That's why we go there to also capacitate. Please don't tell them, I want to be a professor, so they'll not qualify me. Achievement of unqualified audit. MQA maintained an unqualified, you just said qualified or unqualified. So here we are unqualified. So we did not make it, people. We were unqualified, but then that's actually good work from the unit of the money unit. They worked very, very hard. These are the people who make us dance from now, Mezo, we already know. It's part of our culture. We are going to dance to the tune of Melebo up until somewhere. And when we think that it's over in May, no, she comes back. She says AG. And once she says this AG, you will think that is a very huge man coming. No, these are ordinary people, but they make us run around. All right, 5-year operational performance. It is detailed. Now, these are the content of what I've been talking about in terms of our performance and so forth. So we want you to really understand what we're talking about. And this is actually liked by parliamentarians. They want to see the details, okay? I don't know why people always say the devil is in the detail. They never say good things are in the detail. So unqualified audit date is, I'll not talk to that, and achievement in terms of our BBEE level 1, how we do in terms of supply chain. This is where we are at. And customer satisfaction survey, by the way, Memel, she has started again with the team. They have sent a customer survey, stakeholder survey, for the board, for internal, and for yourselves to please complete it. We will not be able to report, and we are going to say we did not achieve the targets if you don't report. So please make the team happy by honestly completing that survey. You're doing yourself a favor, and you're also doing the sector a favor. So we want to see an improvement on this target here. You can see where it was standing, but then we want to see a remarkable improvement. And we moving on, ensuring the delivery of quality and impactful learning programs in the mining and mineral and facilitating training, that is stakeholders, communities, and entrepreneurs. So I would not want really to go output indicator by indicator because you have this support with you, but it is just a mere indication of how well we are doing, and we want to do better. There is 1.6 which speaks to then change management strategy developed and implemented. You'll see part and parcel of why sometimes we having acting positions, we failing to, sometimes are poor, and not that we don't want to, but because we have other parallel processes happening at the same time. So we may not anticipate what the result of those processes shall be, and confirming certain positions and people could also be shooting ourselves on the foot. So we're juggling many balls in the air, but we are in capable hands of our captain, Ntate Mabungu Mashudu. Once you have a person called Mashudu, you are very lucky because the name simply says lucky. Then tracer studies and measuring impact. This is what we talked about. We have now tracer studies on foundational learning competency, that is the FLC, the qualification, the TVET, college support, the mine community projects. So this is what the focus was all about. Now, please participate and tell us also in which area would you want us to focus on in future, because your input is very vital. So I will also not begin to talk to every bullet in the slide to say, what does it mean? And so you can read those, but then suffice to say, out of these tracer studies, we pick up challenges, we pick up successes. We now begin to know that whether the stakeholders from the employer side are playing the game, or there is an intervention that is required for them to participate. We also then picking up the skills gaps in terms of our learning programs and say, okay, on the basis of this gap, can we come up with something? You will also note that for the next financial year, we have sat down, reviewed together with the board and approved the new funding policy directions because of the kind of gaps we picked up in our system and as we manage these interventions. So once we pick up those, we go back, review and say, how can we assist? So we will then be having in future say special projects, interventions, and so forth. So we are going to obviously communicate such to you, and it's important that you participate in our tracer studies. Now, the biggest challenge of tracer studies, always, everywhere, it's something called lately a POPIA. I'm not sure whether it's still called POPIA or it's changed because we do change. It's POPIA. It's not the name of a person. It's abbreviation, South African abbreviation, POPI Act. All right, which then restricts organizations or any other person to access information, personal information. Now that makes it very difficult for the researchers, particularly during COVID-19. It was difficult to conduct research because we had to do it remotely. You have to engage, and in some instances, you would not get the necessary support. So please help us to collate information that you know may be required. If you are a provider, may be required at a later stage. We engage with some of our training providers, and others were telling us, you know, we can't really meet the targets of our project. The simple reason is that we don't have information from the students who are the ex-mine workers. And then why are you not getting it? It is because the mining employers would not want to give them the information because they are no longer part and parcel of the binds. So it's something that requires interventions all the time. So there are challenges that we know. We have this biennial stakeholder satisfactory survey, and then here are the key areas for evaluation and improvement: effective, efficient, increased communication, improved processes and increased turnaround times, leveraging of teams to break down the silos, increased transparency and accountability, foster cultural cohesion, relevant injection of critical skills, and strengthen leadership team. Now, these are the results of the findings. Remember, I told you before, accounting systems have a very fun way of handling life. In research language and many other discipline language, we want to hear about the findings, not in accounting. They don't want findings. You get the picture. They are just opposite. They don't want findings. We want findings in research, but they don't want findings. All right, 5-year operational performance. This is where we are at, people. I'm not going to be taking you bullet by bullet, but in terms of research, this is where we are in terms of number of employers who submitted their WSPs and ATRs. We, as at 2021, we had about 824. So we were targeting, yes, we have 824 because here in actual fact, we want everybody to submit. We want everybody. Now we are looking at the target of 700 for this CM and 800. Now, why do we do that? It is because of what I said before. There seems to be some kind of decline in mining activities and companies, whereas what we saw, the revenue is going up. So we are looking to that. We are doing our research and say how many of our employees still exist and possibly how many can then be submitting. And then we also looking at the research outputs completed per annum. We could only deliver 2 for the past financial year, but we anticipating that we're looking at 6 for this year. And the number of skill development facilitators, I know most of the facilitators do join us at the workshops. We delivered 16, and we're hoping that we will also continue with such workshops. In terms of the profile of the sector, 2016, we had about 634, WSP submitted. Look at the trend and the improvement that have been there. In other words, This simply says more of the employers in the sector came to the party in terms of participation, and this is what we want to see, because there has been an increase, and how we wish that this sector can grow. And it can grow provided all of us join heads together and say, let's begin to anticipate the skills needs of the sector for the next 10 to 20 or 30 years. We can't be myopic indeed. We need to have short-term plans, medium-term, but let's also invest in the long-term plans. You know, when in my other life, when I visited some other countries, particularly the seat of multinationals, that is Switzerland, and being engaged with the policy developers, I was surprised and amazed to say, these guys in South Africa, we are still fighting for the crumbs. They are actually beginning to focus the entire world. They say a region, you know, they map up a region, African continent. In the next 30 years, this is what is going to be happening, and we need to be preparing. This is, I was, you know, quite surprised, and my then chairperson said, wow. And by the way, he was a unionist, so I said, so Chair, please do not go back and start focusing on the toys and closing. Look, people are now focusing on something bigger, and we are fighting for crumbs. So within this sector, we are challenged. We are told that there's depletion of minerals. But we also know that other research reports are telling us there's a lot of minerals still, but the issue is how to get there, because they are even deeper, and our people will not obviously be able to go there. So let's begin to say, how are we going to refine our tools and approaches to increase activities in this particular sector? Now, look at the labor market profile, the trends. This is terrible. I mean, we moved from 2016, 523 people in this sector, but as at 2020, we are now at 344. I told you the numbers are difficult, and 366,000. Is it thousands? I'm telling you numbers. Now I never blame anybody who I don't, because I know I am with you, my brother. So don't blame people. Somebody once told me, no, up until you are tested, please keep quiet. So this is where we are, and this is not good for the sector. People, we can do something, but it's up to us as service providers, as employers, to join heads together to say, let's do something. In other words, let us invest on lower levels in terms of skills development. But then let's begin to say, if we are to make impact, let's then have advanced training, which is going to yield more and better results for all of us. That is doable. So let's do something about that. Now, the sector profile in terms of, remember, I spoke about the NQF level 1 to 3, there's improvement and so forth. This is one of the slides that says these interventions is NSDS 1. There has been some intervention, but we are not yet there. Why? Because sometimes we put ourselves under pressure to say in 5 years we want to achieve this. Hence, the NSA advised the minister to say, no, please begin to shift the SITA licensing from 5 years to 10 years. The whole idea, this is still temporary. They then said, we want ultimately these institutions to be permanent, like universities, TVETs. And by the way, there is a clause in every act that then empowers the minister to establish. It then empowers him to close a university or a TVET institution. So this is the thinking, to say we have to go into that direction. But we said a lot has to be done in terms of thinking and research, and say, do we really need the SITAs the way they are? So this particular slide simply tells you that we are not yet there. If the blue graph stands for Africans, and then the orange one stands for coloreds and Indians, we know we are all Africans, but here we're simply trying to make some classification at white. So you'll see that professionally qualified and experienced specialists and mid-management blacks are standing at 49%. Now you take that 49%, you said, okay, how does it then correlate with the population representation of blacks in the country? Where does it stand? Is it not standing around 79 to 80 something? Therefore, there has to be correlation between these percentage of professionally qualified with that number. And you then have, colors being at 5%. Now you then go back to the population, profile in South Africa and say, does it correlate? So you do the same, and you then begin to see that there are gaps, and indeed, we still have to do a lot. Look at the top management. That blue graph has gone down now to 33. And then what you then see, the white graph continues to go up. It is now at 58. So these are the things that we are looking at. I must actually say the race groupings that is doing fairly well is the Indian grouping. Given my knowledge of other researchers, they are doing fairly well. They're actually been exceeding the population and demographic, or rather percentage representation when it comes to this other profession. So this is quite good indeed. So there is a lot of work still to be done here for us to change the profile. Going back to developmental transformative imperatives. Going back to, I want you to understand, once we do these things, we continue aligning them with our principles, our values, our approach, and our strategic intentions. WSP ATR submissions. So here we are simply indicating that the submissions for 2022 will soon be closing. So we want to plead and encourage all levy-paying employers to submit the WSPs and the ATRs in terms of the legal prescripts. And now this submission must include the training programs that an organization plans to implement for the year ahead, and implementation report of the actual skills development that took place. That is the ATR part of it. We have been encouraging some of the challenges in a workplace that are related to submission is the participation also of organized labor or workplace forums. Please do active participation in these things, because all what we want quality WSP. I have been at policy level managing and checking WSPs, ATRs, actually skills SSPs of all seaters, and looking at them. The challenge has been the quality of data that came through does not actually give us at this level sufficient quality information to make impactful decisions. So please ensure that you don't complete this in a rush. Apply your mind and tell us like it is. All right, 5-year operational performance. I will not necessarily talk to every bullet in this particular slide. Information is provided to you, so please enjoy the reading. The same applies, is still learning program. You'll see program 3 is quite huge. It speaks to the 3, if you remember the value chain that I spoke to, after the skills planning processes, we had learning programs and quality assurance. Now, learning program 3 speaks to all of them. So you can see this is the core of why we exist as a CETA. So I will not necessarily speak to this. Suffice to say, FLC, we are, although the numbers indicate that we are doing well, but it's one of the programs that we really are not, we had thought that we'll do even better. But in the mining sector, it looks like we have challenges. And generally speaking, I also know, even from the QC2 point of view, that this challenge has been raised across various sectors. So it's something that we'll have to give our attention to. Where we are not performing well, as stakeholders, please take note and assist. You can advise us to say we can do better on this particular program. Okay, there's something that we, yes, if you're looking at 3.9, Zoe said we have money. and universities are not giving us the people. You see there. And then you'll see them in a media platform and the minister will be unleashing us on this thing. I don't understand why sitters, you know our minister, eh? I don't understand, they have money. Why should universities suffer? And the vice chancellors will be sitting there. And then at that stage, we don't have opportunity to say, but minister, we have been knocking at the doors of the universities for them to give us the historically disadvantaged lecturers, to give them opportunity to up their skills. We want them to become specialists. Some few years ago, if we were to look into Statistics South Africa report on the number of doctoral students, South Africa was doing horribly bad. It will then tell you for every 1 million, we were producing something like less than 100 doctoral students, which is bad if we were to compare with the international trends. So we want highly qualified people, because once we have those highly qualified people, they are going to up the game, up the standard. So we want to intervene and to assist them, but this should be in the mineral sector. We need to train. So if you are a friend of VETS or any other university that you know can assist, we want to reach this target. Then we also had challenges with regard to bursary interventions because of COVID-19. There was a misalignment in terms of academic years and our financial years. Remember, there was a shift of no, you will no longer start. Some universities said no, they will not start in January, but they will start in March. And by the way, March we are wrapping up. Remember, it is our dance month, so we are wrapping up. We have no time to look at those. So those are the challenges, because people then say, but you have money, why are you not meeting this target? There are factors that are really negating against our intentions. And yeah. Then we also, with regard to 3.16, number of beneficiaries trained in small scale mining per annum. You'll see that we performed at 100, but the previous year, 2019-20, it was 150. Remember, this was the start of the COVID pandemic, 2020. And so we think that this will begin to take off again and have bigger numbers. But then we want also to see impact. We don't just want to intervene, train, but with no impact. We want to see more people being trained. Okay, number of career guidance activities. You see that we're doing quite well. We are counting events. We're no longer counting papers that were dished out to people. I'm just picking on where we have not performed fairly well. There we are, 73, 3.18 in B. Number of TVET NCV graduates that complete a workplace program per annum. We dropped from 192 in 2019-20 to 73. Now our target is back to 174. We indeed, this money, but the problem is workplace spaces. Now we are appealing to our employers to say, please create some space for these learners, for them to enter your workplaces and acquire the necessary work experience. And so we'll appreciate it. Money is there, but secondly, it could also be a challenge coming from the TVET. I know that we have our TVET colleagues here in the room. Try and work very hard. I know that the TVET, the NCV program, when it started, it was like difficult. I know. I even said to myself, yeah, this is like the old T programs of Technicons. They are very comprehensive, quality programs. I'm not sure about is whether people can access them at that much lower level, but these are beautiful programs. Now we are trying to showcase, we can lament, but please let's not lament forever. Let's have something to put smiles on our faces. Now, something like this, where you see a learner, NCV level 4 a graduate, who obviously started building this or construct this career. It's wonderful. You see, they are working on it, and it's now complete. And we now know that we have a future entrepreneur. We continue also celebrating to say we improve our career guides. The unit that is here, Mel and the team together with the rest of MQA team, they continue looking at how best can we make information easily accessible to the new entrants and also to the stakeholders. Recently, Mezo and the team took us to one of the mines. They said they'll write a date here for me to remember. 29 January. Yeah, now it's not me, it's Mabry, supposed to have written a date, 29 January this year. These are the pictures of our colleagues in the IET space from the mining, from the different mines. We gathered there to celebrate. It was at Harmony Gold in Carltonville Mpone mine. So we really celebrated, and we had wonderful testimonies and stories of how a person can just move from being a nobody and now being one of the greatest people to be consulted in the mines, and also to offer training, be a facilitator and a trainer himself. So there were wonderful stories, testimonies around the impact, because we want to hear people out to say, how has this impacted your life? So it works. IAT programs works. And yes, people can be laughing at you, like they said, when you go to those IAT programs, but ultimately their laughing will come to a stop, because morning is coming. Now there we are celebrating, and one good chief risk friend told me, I must never forget this one. Please make the stakeholders aware that these checks, they have money, they have some conditions, and that condition is that they are going to be used for skills development intervention. So this is what we are doing. Fine, they were quite small, but the amount were quite small. I think we are going to be improved. We are simply appreciating the workers as well as the employers, the providers that performed very well. So if you want to be recognized towards the end of this year, do your best with those interventions. You will have an opportunity of standing next to our chairperson, and you can't miss him. He's vertically gifted. You can't miss him. All right. And he's exposing some of us who are being hacked in some pictures. But this is, and we enjoyed ourselves here. We enjoyed ourselves because we were recognized, and people need to be recognized for the good work that they are doing. So we're looking forward to recognize you in the next round of recognition. And VEC work experience, these are students from VETS and University of Pretoria, from those two universities, and they're obviously undergoing some experiential training. And this was successfully completed, and we are quite grateful to Marais and Roberts, which gave them such an opportunity. Quality assurance, this is the last program. Quality assurance, I will also not talk much to it, but suffice to say, there is a shift. There are also circulars that are saying we are now doing away with legacy qualifications, particularly in the TVET space, and then moving into occupational qualification and so forth. Please watch out the space, learn more about what is happening. This unit is hard at work to try and adapt and assist also our stakeholders with regard to their understanding into these new qualifications. So it's very interesting. This is the kind of work that they did. Number of training providers that were quality assured, a number of workplaces that were obviously accredited and so forth, the support of the toolkits. We go all out to support our sector to ensure that they comply. And challenges and risks, the retrenchment in the sector is one of the biggest challenges. It's impacting our business. Well, starting from the monies, that's the first impact. But however, MQA will pursue various available avenues with role players in the sector to devise methods that will support ongoing skills development. Now, once people are retrenched, those people, it's an opportunity also for MQA to intervene and train them for their ongoing livelihoods, because still they have to live and as a people. So those are some of the opportunities. Hence, we have programs such as ex-mine workers and communities around the mines. Board and MQA constitution changes. There has been that change, but then we still obviously lagging. One thing that you did not see under the committees is the EXCO. So it is still being reviewed by the minister, and we hope very soon we will have the EXCO. And it's obviously delaying also the process of the appointment of the CEO, because he is the person who can only be appointed by the board. And then COVID-19, we also know that it affected our lives, but then the good thing is MQA, like many other organizations, quickly adapted to the new way of doing business. So the virtual modes of working, there were challenges, but then at least we managed to mitigate all of those challenges. And we must also thank our leaders, the task team, COVID task team in our unit led by Mesos, who's not here, Sonabile Taba, and together with Ndate Mabungu, they are actually steering, because we engage with unions, with everybody, to say how best then do we protect the lives of the people and still take the mandate of MQA forward. Lastly, and the way forward, the sector is requested to ensure timely uploading of information and assessment in order for the MQA to process learning programs and payments accordingly. Now, I have really talked to this matter when I said, please, when you complete forms, be diligent. Ensure that you do not miss. You must complete forms like I do when I'm looking for, when I'm applying for a position. I do not leave anything. I must say something in every block, because you want to be there. If you want to be there, please assist us by completing in time and ensuring that you comply. Within the first quarter of the financial year, we would have made allocation to ensure timeless and productive implementation of projects. This is what we undertake to do. We will, by all means, do that. And if there's anything, any mistake from our side, do not hesitate to bring that to our attention. Remember, in any organization, because we are not so big, but we are massive. You'll find that your application is being attended to by we like to say lower level, by an administrator who might have missed something, and therefore please come back to us and say something has been missed here in my application, and please attend to it. We will gladly do so. All right. We are also training all our staff members to be sensitive, to look into the needs of the people. The MQA is on track to meet the deliverables of 2021-2022 financial year despite the COVID-19 restrictions. This is what we do. And, the proof of the pudding is in the eating when we are unqualified, not even unqualified, but clean. All right. So because we want to demonstrate that, but we are saying we will, by all means, do our level best not to let you down as our stakeholders. The 2022-23 budgets have been approved for the various projects. Our key challenge is still to be to have timeless expenditure of skills development funds. We want to utilize these funds. We can only do so if you give us the keys. The keys is your application, which is obviously compliant to the requirements and the needs as it was advertised. And also we urge the sector to ensure that they meet the deadline of the WSP ATR submission of the 30 April on annual basis. I've just spoken to WSPs now, and I told you that the last one was 824, and we want that number to go up. We don't want it to be where we anticipate it will be. Actually, we want to embarrass COVID-19. To say COVID-19, despite you coming into our lives, we want to embarrass you. We can even do better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Acting CEO. Another round of applause, colleagues, for you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That is the MQA story for the last 5 years. What our executives have presented is information going back the last 5 years and into the current financial year, going into the plans for the next financial year, which is starting on the 1st of April. So now we're going to engage. This is the crux of this engagement session now, to say we have given feedback, we have accounted to our stakeholders. The CEO did say, this is the accounting session, you are our bosses, and now we want feedback from your side to say, what is it that we are not doing right? Where can we improve? What is it that we are doing right to pump money there or numbers? Was I wrong when I said we have money? The CFO did indicate, her slides did show us monies that we can't even pronounce, billions. We're not talking about billions there. Okay, that is skills development money for the mining and mineral sector. So we do, the money is there. Let us develop this country, let us develop our sector. As you've seen from the presentation, we are developing the sector and we're going beyond the sector because we do understand that we are part of South Africa. As much as we are mining and mineral sector, we are a South Africa. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mel, we're going to take questions now or discussions or comments or input from our stakeholders. We've got stakeholders connected virtually. So Mel is going to assist us with taking questions. I'll take cue from you, Mel, but maybe let's take hands in the room now. I'll take about 5 hands. Let's see with a show of hands, and then I'll recognize you. And then we've got our colleagues with mics that are going around so that we could take a round of questions. We've got time. We've got time. I think part of our values, we are a listening organization, and we want to improve our services. Just as you're thinking about those questions, because there's a lot of information that has been shared, we still, over and above these forums that we're having, we have a stakeholder satisfaction survey that is running, that is going. You must have received, if you have not received the questionnaire or the stakeholder satisfaction survey, for you to be able to participate and give us feedback in another platform, please request our comms people to send it to you so that you complete it and give us feedback. So I've seen a hand here, Shakira. Any other hand in the room? Nobody else wants to ask questions, give input, comment? You are happy with what we're doing. I take it that everybody's happy with what we're doing. And okay, we'll take a hand. Mel, any other hands on the virtual platform or questions that you may type questions as well on the virtual platform? You're welcome to type them through if you can't. Is there anything? Okay, there's a hand. Okay, we'll recognize that. Let's take this question from Shakira and then we'll take that one afterwards. Over to you, ma'am. Okay, we'll recognize Hangwani. Maybe she needs to speak. Hangwani is one of our colleagues. So, okay, over to you, ma'am.
Okay, it is good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shikara Maharaj. I'm the COO of Zurale in Polokwane. I have, sorry Zotwa for doing this, I have multiple comments and questions. Since nobody else wants to engage, let me engage with the team. First and foremost, thank you very much to Zotwa and the executive team and all the organizers. We really appreciate engagement sessions of this nature. My first comments would be for the MCD project. I think the MQA needs to give themselves actually a round of applause for the MCD, the Mining Community Project, and I'll tell you why. We basically employ youth from the mining disadvantaged, unemployed youth. The spectrum is so broad, it's unbelievable. And I need you guys to understand that the doors that this is opening for people on the ground is unbelievable. So where a normal person would go to a hospital or to a construction site and say, I'm here, can I help you? They'll be immediately turned away. But if they are on a project of this nature, Zural has been allocated 150 learners, and every single one of them is in a workspace getting the practical training. So thank you so much, team, for that project. Okay, the second part is I'd like to recognize somebody that I'm not sure if everybody hears this name often, but it's actually Malwandla Nkavele. Malwandla. Oh my goodness, he is such a gem. If ever I need the executive team to remember this name, it's Malwandla. If ever I need help, it doesn't matter whether it's artisan, non-artisan, MCD, Malwandla is a gem, and you guys should be so proud to have him on your team. Thank you for that. Wow. Can I go on, because I have a lot more to say, or should we open the platform to some other people? No, go on. I don't see any other hand. I'll take your input. Okay, great. I hope you like my voice. Okay, so... just another point, I would really appreciate it if you guys could introduce the various MQA teams and the admin teams. So a contact list, and the next time we have an engagement forum like this, have Frida up here, Manini up here, get Nandipa up here, Wadia and non-artisan. I mean, I know all of them, but I think it's very important that other stakeholders see who they engage with. Okay, can I continue? Okay. Yes. With regards to iShare, can we please have open communication with regarding updating of any iShare changes? And the reason I say this is because we encountered an issue recently where NCV learners had to be linked to the Artisan Development tab in iShare, and we as stakeholders were not told about it. And there's multiple other layers. I don't want to talk about all of them, but Zirel deals with all types of grants, and it's very, very imperative that any changes to iShare or internal processes are communicated to us, please, guys. A very big thing for me is if the M&E department, monitoring and evaluation, can you please do random checks to check not only hoax or ghost learners, but ghost and hoax employers. And I'll tell you why. I'm not going to mention who, but Zurel encountered a group of about 15 learners that were undertaken by another employer. The person was paid 85% of the grant, and then they threw the learners in the garbage. And I want to say the word garbage. And Zurel picked up those learners that were literally just cast away. No stipend was paid. Nothing was done. We took those learners into our arms. We trained them. We paid them a stipend. We fed them. We bought them PPE. We bought tool bags. And they are now qualified artisans. And we only got paid 25% of the grant. So when I say please do random M&E checks on hoax employers, please don't only look for ghost learners, look for ghost employers. I know that's quite a deep one, but please, it's very sensitive. Okay, I'm gonna still carry on. Yeah, can I still carry on? Carry on. Okay, so regarding non-artisan disability, we've had a challenge where this past financial year we were granted disabled non-artisan learners under disability, and we took them up. And then the Office of the Premier offered the same kind of disability learnership to the learners and gave them a stipend of probably 8 times more than what the sectoral determination table is. And we lost a lot of the disabled learners. We replaced them, but I just need industry to talk to each other, because it's really challenging when we recruit these learners, we do all the work, we send the packs, and then the Office of the Premier gives them a stipend 8 times what we offer. So industry must please talk to each other. Okay, so those are my comments. And then now my questions.
Okay, let's take the questions. How many are there?
Just 3.
Okay.
Okay, so number 1, the WSP is still closed off on the MQA website. I'm just really worried because the deadline is 30th of April. So can we please just answer when the WSP will be opened up? Number 2, when will the MQA board look at increasing the sectoral determination table A stipend payments? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that question, because the various seaters pay sometimes double or triple what your table governs. And then the last question is, why would it be that the NCV finance person, Nandipa, sits in Northern Cape with regards to claims and stuff like that? Why is it not somebody at head office? I love Nandipa to bits. She's amazing. She's like another Mawandla to me. But I just need to understand why it's not somebody at head office. Why would somebody in Northern Cape sit with my claims and stuff like that? Thank you very much, executive team, Zotwa. I really appreciate the time, and everybody that's present.
Okay, thank you so much, Shakira. Thank you for those questions and input. Very much appreciated. It's quite a lot, and I think our executive will be very much willing to respond or give input in terms of what you've said. Mel, maybe let's get the other one before we can allow the execs to respond to that. Is she going to speak or we can read? Okay, let's see if we can hear. She's trying to unmute. Hangwani, is it Hangwani still? Yes, Hangwani, can you unmute, please? And the platform is yours to be able to give your input. Hadi, so is she muted? She's still muted. Okay. Unless it's an error, maybe, but maybe let's respond to what Shakira has raised. Executive team, I don't know if you want to come up front to, thank you, Shakira, for that input. We'll definitely, it was a lot. And thank you for the compliment on Malwandle. We would definitely take that back to the office, and we're really very, very proud of such service. And this is what all of us aspire to. Okay. And then to introduce the other MQA team, we've taken note of that. We will do that maybe just before we close. We will introduce the others that are here today, just to abide to that. But going forward, I think we will continue to update that contact list. We do have a contact list on our website under each unit. However, we will update it because we keep changing people and so forth. And then iShare, we also take note of that. We will, I think, on a regular basis, circulate information, updates with regards to iShare. Hangwani will, I think she's connected, she's the one responsible for that. So we'll take the message back so that whatever changes happen in the system, then we have a stakeholder communique with regards to that. And M&E to do random checks. I don't know if Mr. Nemagubani would want to answer that one. I'll leave it up to him, but it's a comment, yeah. It's a comment, I think. We take note of it, yes. I think the fact that those learners were brought to Zurel, it's because the M&E conducted verification, and we found that the said provider, there were issues there. And then because we've got a responsibility to ensure that the learners complete, we then said there's an amount of grant that is left, so much, and then we can transfer the learners with the amount of grant left to another provider. So it's as a result of M&E activities that were conducted that we found. So, but we take note that we need to improve and find them earlier than when we found them. I think that's what we take out of that. I don't know if Mr. Magwan want to add?
Yes, it's a comment, and thank you for the comment. But one thing that maybe one can also talk to is that when we allocate next time, we also look at past performance. I think the colleagues will bear me out. So if there are challenges, I think I have an idea of the issue that you're talking to. When things like these happen, then next time when we allocate, we look at what happened. How did you perform in the past? And then we start saying, no, we are not going to continue allocating to people. There are some that we have actually terminated because of poor performance. So those kind of things are looked into. Thanks.
Thank you, Bree. Do you want to add to or respond to some others? Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I always say you are partners in skills development. Thanks, Shakira, for those questions. I'm confirming that the platform is opened for WSP-ATR submissions today. Yes. And SDR Manager Vuyo will be circulating the template to the sector. So you can start populating and submit timeously. Please don't wait for the deadline, you know. And then the second question on NCV, why do we have a personnel in Eastern Cape? I'll be very, very concerned if you are not serviced. So as MQA, we have regional offices that are responsible for other projects. So the stakeholder relations unit is responsible for NCV. Hence, you are serviced from the Eastern Cape. But we'll ensure that if you need accessibility of any regional office, you're more than welcome to visit. Your closest is the Limpopo one. Yes, it's in Sikokoni. But we have footprint in other offices as well. But why you are serviced from there is that we had to ensure that the project owners take responsibility of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Ma'am Bree. And then with regards to the sectoral determination one, it's a national document. It's not an MQA document. It's a minimum wage. You can pay them 3 times. You can pay them 8 times. It's up to the employer. However, if you want us to increase the grant, the artisan grant is also regulated. But for other disciplines, like your learnership, it's that kind of input that we want in these sessions. To say your 50,000 is too little. It takes me this far. I know you pay 50,000, but it cost me 80,000 to do the learnership. So that's why we're having these engagements to get that input, because if the sector is quiet, we will continue to pay 50,000. So we need input as part of a stakeholder engagement, part of stakeholder satisfaction, because in that stakeholder satisfaction survey, that's why we encourage you to participate in it. There's questions that are technical in relation to our training programs, questions that are regarding the leadership, questions that are regarding our offerings and what can we do to improve. So look into that. We really, really would appreciate your feedback so that you can even write more and give us more input. So I think we've addressed, I don't know if there's anything that we didn't take care of. Okay, Mel, do we have any questions there? Okay, is that silence? Are we assuming that we are happy? We welcome this leadership of MQA and we're happy with our offerings, and we'll get more feedback on other platforms or even the stakeholder satisfaction survey. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Oh, there's a hand. Okay, there's a hand. Let's take that one hand. Okay, the mic is coming. 1, 2. Shakira, you're getting the second bite. Third one, and there's, okay, before you speak, and then there's one, Mel, you've got one on the platform. Okay, Shakira, you'll have the last bite because you're coming back. Okay, Sir, we'll take you. Where's the second one? Is it Shakira in the house? Or there's another one, ma'am, you'll follow, and then the platform, and then Shakira. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Nati Kumbi from Zizi Skills, all the way from Richards Bay in KZN. I have 3 questions regarding to the strategic objectives or outcomes that the COO was talking to. The first one is the issue of trying to support the rural unemployed with regard to the Wi-Fi. I have seen when we are applying for funding, sometimes you are looking for credit-bearing kind of an intervention. So in this particular instant, Wi-Fi is more like a community project. And my question is, how do you, if we are a training center and we have a space and we will appreciate or will want to bring those learners to get help in terms of accessing the internet and stuff like that. But how do we go about applying for the funding with MQA? That is number 1. Number 2, it talks to the SMMEs. We have been involved in the training of the SMMEs in the Richards Bay area. What I would like to know is that other than the normal outcomes of the new venture creation as articulated in the qualification, what else does MQA expect from us as a training providers in terms of the exit plan? Is there, other than getting these people to be qualified and linking them to the market, is there a specific thing that we need to achieve or we need to demonstrate as an exit strategy after we have done with the SMMEs? The third one talks to the collaboration of stakeholders on PSECT. My question is, we are in Richards Bay. In KZN, it has been indicated that there are no offices. Each time you are trying to engage the MQA levy paying companies, they said some of them, they said, no, the offices are in Johannesburg. We find it very difficult. And as a result, we find it very difficult to work with the companies in that particular sector. So what I'm trying to understand, or my question is, will MQA honor the invitation? If I am that side, will try to organize more like a workshop or an awareness kind of a workshop, calling all those companies that are falling under mining industry. Will MQA honor that particular invitation just to come and share their mandate as well as their contribution into the skills development? The last one talks to the turnaround time in terms of us submitting the documents that are required for the processing of the project. I will personally request that MQA can try to improve. Why I'm saying that? When we advertise, for example, we had an allocation last year. We advertised through social media a number of other avenues. Then when these learners are coming to submit their CVs or other documents, we have others that are not recruited into a program. So we park them for the next or for the other projects that will come. So when those projects are allocated to us, we tap into what we have parked there and we call these learners whether they are still interested. If they are still interested, we call them in. Now, we call them in now. We ask them to complete and bring updated documents, but it takes a month or and a half for MQA to verify those documents and give us a go-ahead in terms of training. And that get us into trouble with local authorities because we do this thing through our councillors, our traditional authorities, and also learners who are eager to start their programs. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You next.
Afternoon, colleagues. My name is Lindy Mabaso. I'm from M22 Solutions. Firstly, I would like to commend the corporate services team for this informative stakeholder engagement forum. We really appreciate your hard work. Please don't be discouraged by the attendance. Some people, they just decide not to attend and not apologize, but we really appreciate platforms like this. My question, I'm not sure whether it's a question or an input to our CFO label. You mentioned the issue of ending contracts that people need to submit on time. Is it possible that you can, from your department, that we can receive like events like calendar, 3 months calendar, just to notify a communique, notifying us when are the dates of submission, so of those ending, that contracts that are ending. If we can get a communique, just to remind us. Please forgive me if it's already done. I'm a new stakeholder. And my second question, actually, our CEO mentioned that on community development, he would allow the data to say 1 or 2 things. And I was hoping that maybe we can pick up priorities, because that's the area of interest that we as M22 Solutions are looking at that. So that didn't happen, and I was hoping that we're gonna pick up something on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, Mel, let's go to that question on the platform. Yeah.
Thank you. We have 2 questions from our virtual attendees. Bain Ox says, can you guide me to correct contact details for skills development as well as RPL programs guiding artisan assistance in the workplace? And then there's another question as well from Charlotte Moale. Good day. May you please guide me who I can contact in terms of WSP ATR invoice query for the previous year. And Sibongile says, thank you for a very informative stakeholder interaction. It really helps align the sector interventions to be future fit, considering highly changing operating environments. Thank you so much for sharing your governance and strategic directions. Very progressive, MQA.
Thank you. Thank you. There's another one.
Okay. Let me. Okay, all right. From the Platinum Incubator, we appreciate the support the MQA has offered in extending our PGM's beneficiation scope. We are now able to support and groom metallurgists, chemical engineers, and other industrial applications. Local beneficiation is truly accelerated with your support. Our next wish is to take our support to rural mining communities through community and youth development program. Our skills development and business support systems have been tried and tested over the 12 years now.
Thank you. Thank you, Mel. Let's give Shakira and then the executive can respond. You want to go first? You can go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my last question is in conjunction with what the gentleman said and the lady at the back. I need the executive team to just note that with regards to the extensions, oh, sorry, it's not a question, it's a comment. With regards to the extensions for the learners that are expiring, the departments within the MQA need to communicate with each other, because when we send a registration pack, it takes quite a long time for the registrations teams to link them onto iShare. And then if we as stakeholders don't constantly follow up, at the end of the term when we need to apply for serial numbers, the learners are not linked, the documents are not found, and it delays the process. I unfortunately went through a bad experience recently where learners' contracts expired in October. We submitted the serial number applications 3 months prior, and we only got the serial numbers in January. So they were out of contract. We had to extend them, and then we had to bear the burden of paying the stipend. So it was an ouch situation for us. So just internally, if the MQA could ensure that when packs are sent, registrations are done, because it not only delays us as stakeholders, the end result is a mammoth task to pay the learners, and then now the learners all say, why are we not paying them further? And oh goodness, it's unbelievable. And one more thing, as I said, my name is Shikara. I'm from Polokwane. We are an accredited SDP and trade test center for 10 trades. If anybody wants my number, please find me, the Indian lady. Thank you once again, executive team. Thank you, Zotwa.
Thank you, Shikara. Typical. Okay. Thank you so much, colleagues, for those questions and input. I don't know if there's any executive who wants to go first.
For me, the questions were more on stakeholder.
Yes.
Yourself and that itself.
That it's up, you want to go first? Okay. You can come in.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I've got a few questions. I think they were more from Mr. Nati Gumbi of Richards Bay. The first one, I think you were asking about the MQA funding Wi-Fi accessibility, but you were linking it, I think, to the appetite that we have for credit-bearing interventions. Yes, it is true that we do prefer the training programs or training interventions that are accredited. Well, the training providers needs to be accredited, but also that the training interventions need to be credit-bearing. You do have provisions that we've made rather for those that are very short skills program, could be a day or 2 day program that are not necessarily accredited. They're just short skills interventions. But so far as Wi-Fi accessibility and funding from the MQA is concerned, when you submit your proposal, and I think that becomes part of, you have a portion that is for stipends of the beneficiaries, and the other part is the training fees that you charge. You could include that, I think, as part of your training fees, because those are the costs that you would incur in terms of training your learners. The other one relates to exit strategy. Is there any specific expectation that we have as an organization in terms of the exit strategy that you have to include in your proposal? The quick answer is no, there isn't any. But your exit strategy needs to look at an array of things. One, you need to look at the training program that you're offering the learners, how you are going to support them post-training. I think the chief risk monitoring and evaluation officer that spoke about, gone are the days where we train for the streets. We need to see the impact. We need to see the return on investment. So you align your exit strategy in terms of the proposal that you've submitted to assisting the learners post-training, so they become either employable or they could start up their own outfits and run with their businesses. So there isn't a size-one-fits-all response in terms of the exit strategy that we expect. It could be anything. You could even support them in terms of toolkits rather, to ensure that once they're done with training, they could have those establishments of theirs up and running. The other one, I think, relates to would we honor an invitation if you were to invite us in KZN? I think part of the presentation spoke about the regional offices that we have. We do have a national footprint in all the provinces. Over and above that, we do have a provincial stakeholder engagement fora, just as this one. We do participate, I think, in a whole lot of other fora that are generated by their stakeholders. But yeah, we do have our own as well. So yes, we would honor the invitation if we were to get it. I think recently we've had, we've been invited, I think a lot of times we're in KZN on career guidance invitations, either from the Department of Higher Education and Training and all the other departments. So we would look at the invitation that we get and engage based on that. The last one, okay, shut up.
No, thanks. Sorry, if I can add on that one. Just to add on what he's saying, the fact that we don't have an office per se in the KZN province does not mean we don't cater for KZN. The allocation is such that KZN is catered for by the office in Mpumalanga. That's why TSEPO is responding. So even if we don't have an office in KZN, if you need anything, you contact the person that's heading in Mpumalanga. You will get the same assistance that everybody else receives. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Tati Namagubani. The last one I think that I took was the turnaround time. It takes a while before the allocations are done. I suppose that's what you meant. Oh, is it? Do you want to talk to that? So my take of it was about the submission of the applications, but is it processing of payments? If you'd like.
Is it
Can you please?
payment or approval of allocation?
When the allocation has been done,
Okay.
we have submitted the first part of application 21, which is a document verification, and they're giving a go ahead to start the training.
Okay. The challenge we've had with that was these are all manually done, as opposed to where you make use of the system. And as it were, you find that you have to submit first a copy of the ID, your learner enrollment forms, the application forms. Often we find that there's a toing and froing between the MQA as well as the stakeholder, simply because the information is not captured correctly. And I can tell you, just recently, we've had an allocation of about 14 mine community development program companies. And each and every one of them had issues. So that toing and froing just does take a lot of our time, a lot of time before payment can be approved. But once the documents are correct, even though the policy says that we can take up to 30 days to make a payment, we strive to do it in a number of days. So only when we have the correct documents, and this is for auditing purposes as well, we strive to hasten the process. I think that's it from my side.
Okay.
Shut up. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tetsi. I hope we've managed to answer your questions, Ntate Gumbi. And you can engage further with Mr. Tsotetsi after the session, just to get more information in terms of what support and all of that. And then the other set of questions, is it from Amanda? The finance, I think there are units, but maybe we have not standardized it across all units, or there are some projects, they do send the information. I know you've requested the CFO, however, it will happen from the operations, from the program manager side to send you that information. So we take note, and then we need to make sure that it happens across all projects, that they would send the expiry of contracts within just before the 3 months period. Yeah. Okay, you wanted, so we take note of that. Yes, it's happening, and we also take note that you indicated that you are new. We are aware that it's happening in other projects, but maybe you are in the projects where it doesn't happen. So we'll have a look at that, and thanks for that. And then in terms of priority areas I think you have asked for priority areas in our mine community development projects. We don't necessarily indicate what are the priority areas. That project, the way that it works, we rely on you, the people that live in that community, to submit a proposal, because I think Tsepo spoke of an exit strategy, to submit a proposal that talks to economic activity that happens in that area. So we are not in all areas in South Africa. So this project can be run, especially the mining areas or the labor sending areas. So you as a service provider, you go into an area or you live in an area. You know that, I'm making an example now. You know that there will be a bakery that opens, a big bakery, or there will be a BMW plant that opens, and it requires certain skills. So you submit a proposal, you go and speak to that company that is opening. It's going to create an economic activity in that area, or a mall, for argument's sake. So you go and speak to the people to say, what kind of labor are you going to require from the people in the area? Because you find that the type of labor that they require, you don't have the skills for that. Then you do a proposal based on that to say, there is a mall, this is just an example. There is a mall that is going to be open in Lusiki, and they will require cashiers. You write a proposal to MQA to say, I've spoken to people that will be running the mall, and they will require cashiers, and we've got an agreement, and can you fund the training of cashiers? Then you know that is an exit strategy to say, when they complete this training, there's an opportunity that is waiting for them. I've got an agreement with the people that are building the mall or building houses, or whatever the case may be. There could be RDP houses that are built. So for you, the people in the area, to avoid the contractors bringing labor when the people in the area are not working, or the young people, you submit a proposal to say, can MQA fund us to train builders? There will be RDP houses that are being built here. And then you go and talk to whoever has the contract, or the municipality. We encourage partnerships in the mine community development project, wherein you can come with a partner already to say, I'm in partnership with the municipality. They have approved a budget of this much to construct something in this area, and we know there are no skills. MQA, can you fund these skills? And this is where we come in. So in terms of, linked to the question that Mr. Gumbi was asking, we may not fund data per se. However, we fund skills development projects linked to data. And I think Doc mentioned in his presentation that it's through feedback like this, we see and we hear you, that you do not only need what we have. There's other things that we can offer, and we're looking at a model to fund special projects. So we are still looking at it. It's not there yet, because we've had from input of our stakeholders that you need more than the catalog that we have as MQA to say, this is our catalog of training programs that we offer. So the more feedback we get in terms of how can we afford our stakeholders, or how can we be of service so that we remain relevant. It's useless for us to exist when we are not responding to the needs of the sector as well as of the country. We're seeing the unemployed youth statistics going up all the time. So we need to be responding to that as well. I think when the value chain was being presented, it does talk to, we conduct research before we can bring interventions. So our research will tell us what are the needs. Our research is not only relying on a WSP ATR information. We do other research projects that are telling us what are the skills. Just now, we embarked on a research for 4IR soon it should be telling us that research, what is it that we can respond to in terms of interventions or training interventions or funding that could assist the sector to move very fast in aligning ourselves with the requirements of the fourth industrial revolution. So I think in terms of guiding with contact details for Artisan, I think Mel, it was one of the questions that I hope you responded there. The Artisan specialist is Ms. Frida Mshime. I think Mel should be able to give the contact, but on our website, I know under learning programs, strategic projects page, there are contact details for each. And so artisan development, so not strategic projects, sorry, operations. So the artisan development projects and other projects like IAT, FLC, non-art and so forth, they are under learning programs, operations. So the details of the contact people per each projects are there. However, the manager responsible for that unit is Mr. Kolisa Njikilan. So he should be able to assist you with that. And then in terms of your WSP ATR invoice query from last year, you can talk to, is it finance or Vuyo? Okay. You talk to Ms. Vuyo Kazimofu, and your contact details should be on our website as well. I don't know, it's gone are those days when we were memorizing the phone numbers by head. Now we are so reliant on the phones. So her contact details are there, but her email address is vuyo@nqa.org.za. So you can email her to query your previous year's Vuyokazi, sorry, is it Vuyokazi? Yes, full name. She already responded. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Vuyo. And then registration takes long before, I think it's linked to what Mr. Ngumbi was asking in terms of registration of documents, and that's what it's responded to it. We're looking at moving those projects into the system. It will take quicker because the system helps to do some verifications. Now we have to look at IDs, ID numbers, matching it with an ID copy, and it takes time. So we're looking at the process of migrating all of that is being done manually into a system, and hopefully it will resolve all of these issues that are making us to take long. And we really apologize, but we take note, and we thank you so much for that feedback. Not only we're looking for a positive feedback, we're looking at feedback of where we're not doing well, where we could improve as well. I don't know, have we covered everything?
There was just one part. I think indirectly was asked by Mr. Ngumbi. There was just one part which was asked indirectly. It had to do with certain stakeholders not getting information from us. And I think just recently we had a meeting with the acting CEO where we're supposed to submit the activity plans. And then I think from the stakeholder relations office, one of the tasks that we'll be doing is to ensure that our database is cleaned up. I think there may be gaps there. It's not only today that this has come up, but in certain fora as well, we do find out certain stakeholders do not get our invitations and all of that. So we'll undertake to correct that as well through the cleaning up of the database. Sure, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ntatetso Tetsi. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Program Director, just one more compliment that someone would like us to announce here. It's from Raymond. He says, thank you for the informative session. It is indeed an eye-opener, especially on clarifying the MQA iShare extensions. It always gives us a great pleasure to have you as partners, and we'll continuously work together in developing our learners.
Thank you for that comment. Indeed, we are partners in this skills development. I think when the acting CEO was presenting, he kept on begging to say, please submit a WSP on time, please open up your workspaces. So we really want to hash on on his words in terms of that, to say, can we open up the workspaces, even if in terms of your budget, you can only take 100 learners, but in terms of your space, you can take 200 learners. Do knock at our door so that we could be able to fund, because we're struggling with workplaces that are able to accommodate our learners. The learners are plenty. There's a lot of learners that require work experience for them to qualify, that require internship for them to get that 2 years experience, so that when you apply for jobs, the 2 years that they require, you do have it. So we just need the workplaces. So we really urge our sector to open up your workplaces for us to be able to place the learners. And then we did make a promise that we will introduce our people. Okay, there's a last question. Okay, Dylan, let's recognize that one.
Okay, thank you. Good day, colleagues. My name is Gardner Deo from Ekurhuleni East, TVET College. Now, before I ask my question, I wanted to extend our appreciation as a TVET College for the support that we are getting through the funding for unemployed youth development, as well as the lecturer, TVET lecturer support. So the question I have is, we have recently responded to a call for application for DG funding for TVET lecturer support. Now, my question is, does MQA have a limit in terms of the duration of a training program for the facilitators or our trainers? Why I'm saying so, previously we have trained mostly on conduct outcomes-based assessment as well as moderator. And then when you look at these programs, you're looking at maybe 5 days, that's all. But then from our other programs that we are also running, we have programs that are currently offered in special projects, like your dual system apprenticeship program or the centers of specialization. And then we have other arts and development facilitators who are now left out, but really need training such as project-based teaching and learning, or let's say ODET. And then now you find that the training that they require over and above of the assessor or the moderator they have may need them to participate in this training for maybe 3 months or 4 months part-time. So will MQA consider such training programs for our facilitators? That would be my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Katma, for that question. I think we've got a number of interventions under TVET support, and for this one, the advert that was out, I think we're talking with Bridget about it. It does not limit. The only thing is that before we advertised, that's why it took us so long. We advertised, we engaged with TVET colleges as well as DHET, the TVET division there, to try and find out, so that we don't prescribe something that you don't need, to try and find out what are the interventions that are curriculum, because we have to support the TVET colleges in terms of curriculum related needs. And then the assessor and moderator came out as one of the interventions. However, we can go, if you're saying OTETD, we can do OTETD, we can do other, we can actually do other. So in the application, you have to specify what are the needs for your specific college when you apply to say, we need OTETD, we need assessor, we need governance training, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that intervention specifically for TVET colleges is open for you to specifically apply for the interventions that are curriculum related. So OTETD is curriculum related, it will enhance or develop. There's also lecturer support in terms of, we know that there are lecturers who have got trade certificates, but they don't have the teaching qualification. We can do teaching qualification. We've got those that have got teaching qualification, but they cannot do trade. We can also do that to get them the trade qualification, so that to improve curriculum delivery. Those are the issues that we're talking about that are in the NSDP in terms of improving the quality of the TVET colleges, and we've got the responsibility to fund those ones. So those interventions are really meant for that. Okay, thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all your questions. Maybe I request the other MQA colleagues to stand, those that are here. I'll start with you, Mel. This is Mrs. Mel Clark. She is our communications and stakeholder relations manager. Okay, you can introduce yourself and Dylan, where's that mic so that you see them and hear their voices? It would be nice. Start with yourself. We're not sharing mic. You can start with you before you hand it over.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sipho Mnganweni. I'm the legal and governance intern.
Thank you, Sipho. Give it to Hatiso. We also have interns at MQA. You saw, no?
Good day, colleagues. I'm Hatiso Mutlong. I'm an IT specialist at MQA.
Thank you, Hatiso. Hand it over to Mel and then she can give it to the others.
Hi, you've already heard my voice. I'm Mel Clark, Customer Service and Communication Manager.
Thank you, Mel. That type has been introduced. Dylan, you've got mics as well there, or you're going to come
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Baitsi Mukiti. I'm the Communication Administrator.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Masilo. I'm the Communication Specialist.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marilyn and I'm the Communications Intern.
Good afternoon, everyone. Delan van Rieder, Communication Administrator.
Thank you so much, colleagues. That is the MQA team that is amongst us today. It is those men and women that make this executive shine. It is them that put Vaseline on these guys. So thank you so much, colleagues. The others are connected virtually. And we'll make sure that in future platforms we do the same. We introduced, and apologies that we didn't introduce the team at the beginning, but now here's the people behind the scenes. So we would like to take this opportunity to thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your input. It was really fruitful, this session. All the input that has been given, we'll take it and go and digest it at home. And when you see the strategy, you would see it changed because of this input. You've given us input, and we've got evaluation forms on the tables. They also, if you were unable to speak today, the evaluation forms, you can give us your input or feedback in the evaluation forms. Please fill them in. Tell us what you think. Tell us how can we improve going forward. There's questions that you just need to respond to them. And for those that are connected virtually, thank you so much, colleagues. Before you log out, please complete the evaluation form. As you log out, the evaluation is going to pop out. Please complete it. We do need that feedback in terms of this session and in terms of how can we improve going forward to hold other sessions. So we're not going to waste time. We would like to thank everyone. Thank men and women, all of the statistics, the numbers that we have seen, the performance of the MQA. There's about 100 and what? People behind the scenes, behind these people, the workers at MQA that have made those numbers, those that you communicate with every day, those that call you. Thank you to each and every one of them, the Malwandles of this world, the Nandipas, the receptionist at MQA. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our stakeholders for your patience with us, for your partnership, for participating in our programs, for making the difference, for working with us so that we can change the South Africa. We are the change agents. History is going to judge us. To say, Zodwa, you were learning programs manager in 2021 at MQA. What have you done? What life have you changed? I think the presentations coming from CFO, CEO, and CRMEO, they were talking about impact. Let's not only talk about numbers. Our board is on our case to say, yes, we see you're saying APP 83%. What does that mean? I want to see I want to see a face behind the number to say, I have transformed this life. I've moved from a salary of 5,000 to 20,000 and I'm able to feed my family. So this is what we are about, impact. So our next sessions as we go forward, we want to focus on impact. So when you talk about the numbers, Shakira, when you advertise Zurel Brothers, tell us what Zurel has done in terms of How many people have you transformed? How many? So that is what we're looking to, but we cannot do it on our own. We need each other. So with those words, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and we look forward to your feedback. Please do not forget to fill in your evaluation form, and please do not forget to participate in our stakeholder engagement forum. And thank you so much to our executive team for your leadership, and thank you. Stakeholder perception survey, sorry. Thank you so much. The session is closed, and we would gladly like to invite you for lunch. Thank you, and goodbye. Thanks. Yes, the forms that you're completing, you leave them on the desk. Our communications team will collect them. Thank you so much. Thank you, boss.
I now see.
Amen.